Hello everybody, this is HybridTriad, aka Scripture, and I'm here today to bring you the second part of All Paths Lead Home, Chapter 1, the story by Mystic. It's kind of late tonight, so I might not be at my peak performance. Not that I've had many performances to go with, but I hope that you enjoy the second part of the chapter, as I definitely have. So, here you go. "Where are we going, Mama?" came a small voice later that day. They had been walking for several hours now, and despite this, the mountains refused to draw any closer, remaining nothing but cold bruises on the horizon. "We're going south," the mare replied after a moment, her hooves hitting the road beneath them heavily. "Why are we going south?" "Because winter is coming, and it will be too cold here in the north." "Oh," the filly said softly. "Is that all?" The mare's brow furrowed. No, that was not all. We're going home." "Home?" She sounded confused, the word altogether unfamiliar. "Yes, home. We are going home." The mare dipped her head slightly. "But where is home, Mama?" the filly asked, oblivious to her mother's sadness. "It's a long way south. It's in a big city that's built into the side of a mountain." "But I thought you said the cities were dangerous." The mare paused. "It might be dangerous," she admitted reluctantly. "Then why are we going?" The filly sounded scared now. The mare knew that their experience in the south were just as fresh in her mind as they were for herself. Because there's something I have to see." "What's that, Mama?" the filly queried, tilting her head to the side as she did. The mare did not reply, choosing to walk on in silence. Knowing better than to press further, the filly fell silent again, falling quietly in step beside her. She and the filly had been wandering for too long now, always heading towards rumors and lies. The mare returned her gaze toward the horizon. She knew that the road isn't the safest place to travel, especially with the influx of ponies that would be fleeing back south, but the road was the fastest and most direct route. In precaution, she kept on constant alert, her ears pricked and waiting for the slightest sound beyond their own hoofsteps. It led to a nerve-wracking day. Her stomach rumbled again, this time more quietly, almost as if it was losing the strength to make a convincing argument that required food. The mare was craving cow's milk. The thick, creamy liquid had disappeared from the world a long time ago, and so now, despite all of the cravings in the world, it would never be satisfied. All that was left was the mere memory of the drink, for whatever that was worth. The memory is fading around the edges now, a fact that the mare attributes to its age. She is young, only a small filly herself. She stands in her old bedroom, the various paintings and pictures on the walls acting as reminders to a creative streak long since abandoned. Moonlight shines through an open window, the stars twinkling like jewels around it. On the floor in her room there are toys of all shapes and sizes. The mare's personal favorites is the large stuffed toy bear and pony plush doll. Up against the wall in the middle of the room sits the filly's bed, the covers pulled back slightly, inviting the tired pony into its embrace. Behind the filly is her mother, a purple earth pony with a kind face and tightly curled dark green mane. The mare is not particularly thrilled with their presence, however. "Time for bed, little one," her mother coos affectionately. "I don't want to sleep, Mom," she replies, her voice equal parts pleading and complaining. "I'm still wide awake." Her mother sees straight through the lie. "But if you don't sleep, then how will you be able to play with your friends tomorrow?" She pauses, her tongue poking out of the corner of her mouth as she thinks of a response. Her efforts are ruined when she emits a loud yawn, her eyes blinking in an attempt to stay open. "See," her mother presses, "you are exhausted. Now go on and get into bed. There is a big, bright day waiting for you tomorrow." "And I will get to play with all my friends?" the mare replies, defeated, as she walks slowly over to her bed. "Of course you will. I am sure they are waiting to play with you as well," her mother says as she moves over to the window and closes it. "I sure hope so," the mare said sourly as she gets into her bed, rolling over onto her side. "Would you like some milk, darling?" her mother asks. The mare nods her head sleepily in affirmation. The older pony leaves, her hoofsteps echoing down the hall. The tired little filly yawns again, fighting against her eyelids to stay awake. Her mother returns shortly, a glass of milk sitting on a tray she is carrying in her mouth. She sets it down on the small bedside table, careful not to move the lamp. The mare reaches over and grabs the glass between her two front hooves. She lifts it and takes several big, long draughts. It is warm, thick and creamy as she was hoping, the liquid warming her insides and relaxing her muscles. When she finishes the glass, she places it back on the tray before allowing her head to hit the pillow again, a small smile on her face. "There, was that nice?" her mother asks her kindly with a tender smile. She reaches down and strokes her daughter's mane. "Uh-huh," the mare replies sleepily. Her mother kisses her lightly on the forehead before moving to the door. "I love you, Mom," the mare whispers softly, finally losing the battle to keep her eyes open. "I love you too," her mother replies. "Now sleep well and dream happy dreams, little one." She switches off the light and closes the door softly, leaving her daughter to the gentle embrace of sleep. They had been walking south for several days before this. They had been part of one of the last great mass movements of peaceful ponies, wanting nothing more than a life that somewhat resembled the peace of their old world. Together, driven by whispers of hope and peace and harmony, the mare and her daughter had headed north outside Equestria's borders with the simple message of friendship. What they had found, however, was blood and fire and death. Many ponies had tried to escape. Most did not succeed. It made the mare feel sick. What had happened to Equestria, a land which was once the home of harmony and of friendship? The ash swirling around her feet proved to be answer enough. It had all burned away, burned until there was nothing but evil and hatred left in the world. Before the mare and the filly, the road continued to stretch on into the distance. Now the mare could swear she could see a splattering of shadows that grew thicker and more condensed as it approached the foothills of the mountains. They were the remains of the forests whose leaves used to be the most brilliant sage color. The mare could still remember the bird song. She hoped to reach the trees before dark. It was too dangerous out here on the plains. In the early days of the end, ponies had clogged roads like these as refugees. The unlucky survivors of horrors all had thought impossible. The mare had been one of them. They had been starved, beaten, and bruised, dressed in rags to keep away to extreme temperatures, and goggles and masks to keep the toxic air out of their faces. The survivors had wandered the roads in groups, smiling and helping each other when they encountered fellow travelers. At first they believed that harmony would prevail, that with friendship the earth would recover, but that was before the descent. Now the very notion of hope was nothing but a memory, lingering around the edges of ponies like the mare's mind, always just out of reach. At around midday, or as close as the mare could tell, the filly spoke up again. "Mama, if we're going home, we're going to your home, aren't we?" Her voice was sensitive, the obvious product of a long internal discussion. The mare looked at her quizzically. "Yes, we are going to my home. Why?" "Well," the filly began, "that means if it's your home, and I've never been there before, then it's not my home. And that means I don't have a home." Her mother broke stride for a second before replying rapidly, "It can be her home, too." "But it isn't," the filly pressed sadly. "I've never been there. I've never been home. I've never had a home at all." "Your home is with me," the mare said, trying to cheer her up. "Wherever we are, together, it's your home." "It's not the same," the filly murmured slightly. "Why not?" "Because you said that home is somewhere you lived, and we don't live anywhere." "Maybe we'll find you a home then." The filly paused. She had clearly not considered this option. "Really, Mama?" she said eventually. "Do you really think we can find me a home?" "Of course we can," the mare replied. I'd like that," the filly admitted, smiling happily to herself as they walked along the ashen path. "Good," she said, smiling too. There was another reason the mare was going south. Winter was coming, and it was coming quickly. Already the sky looked ready to snow, the clouds dark and angry, filled to the brim. Also, the nights grew colder and colder as the days trudged by. The mare knew that this was only the beginning. Winters, especially towards the north, were unforgiving apocalypses, with temperatures that would freeze the blood of a pony as they walked. The very earth itself cracked under the icy winds that blasted across the barren equestrian landscape, while the ground became buried by glaciers and ice sheets. No pony could hope to survive in such conditions, and the mare knew not to test their luck. She'd heard the tale from a refugee like themselves a few years or so ago. His ears had been stubs, lost to frostbite, and he, himself, had escaped the worst of it. His family had not. As the day dragged on, the forest became closer and closer, a few dead trees now dotting the landscape around them. The ground became more and more undulating, the hills rising and falling gently, their surfaces covered in ash. The filly would stare at the trees, not saying a word. To the mare they were the sentinels of the dead, watching over the land with cold eyes, cursing the living. The mare didn't like to watch the trees. It came as a surprise when the mare spotted the roof of a building slightly off the road. She wasn't aware any pony had ever lived out here. It was clearly built to be hidden from the path and, were the tree's lives, would have been completely covered by foliage. Gesturing to the filly, the mare made her way towards it. "No, Mama," the filly said hurriedly after she noticed their change of direction. "It mightn't be safe." "We have to try," the mare replied, almost desperately. "We have to find food." The small pony didn't reply, and instead walked closer to her mother, making sure they just stayed behind her. They were both starving. There was no denying that. The mare knew it would be a long shot to find food in a single lone house in the middle of nowhere without any major settlements nearby, but she had to try, irrespective of the dangers. They climbed the hill and began to descend into the small gully in which the house was situated. It was a medium, two-story affair built of large wooden planks. The shingled roof was angled steeply to prevent snow buildup. Part of the wall facing north, and some of the roof had collapsed. The rest of the building appeared scorched, but relatively intact, even if the building's original color was no longer discernible. All of the windows, however, had been shattered, their frames empty and dark. Approaching carefully, the mare slowly pushed open one of the wooden doors that sat only on one of its hinges. It creaked as it swung open, revealing a dark interior beyond. They entered cautiously, the filly sticking close to the mare. The inside was small, with the remnants of wooden paneling on the walls. Most of the furniture was either gone or broken, probably used for firewood or scavenged for crude construction at some point. The clean timber was much more valuable than the burned trees outside. The mare walked carefully through the room, the cracks in the ceiling reason enough to give pause. There was a definite smell of rot in the air, and dark stains ran up the walls from patches near the windows. The mare made her way through the kitchen, picking a path around the upturned table and 3 broken chairs lying in the middle of the room. The inside of the kitchen was in a very similar condition to the first room, only most of the appliances were still in there. The oven was cracked and shattered, some pony obviously trying to scavenge parts. The mare opened the pantry with a small, half-hearted sense of hope, and was not at all surprised to find it empty, filled only with dust. The filly looked at her mother with interest as she sighed, and turned away from the cupboard, now absent-mindedly opening a few of the other shelves and cupboards to check for anything worth collecting. "What do we do now, Mama? There's no food here." The mare didn't reply, and instead started knocking around the walls, listening. The filly looked confused as the mare continued to tap the wooden panels. "What are you doing, Mama?" "You'll see," the older pony replied softly. Well, I think this is a good point to stop for tonight, so that I have a little bit of time to talk to the audience. Honestly, I like the little interactions between the mother and daughter in this. It really kind of gives a good sense of family to it, even though it's only the two of them. I would love to talk about more about the story, but I'm not a spoiler kind of guy. But I will definitely say that you will be enjoying the rest of this chapter. There's still about, I would say, half of the chapter left. Yeah, about half the chapter is left. And hopefully you will stick around to listen to the rest of it. I should be getting that up soon. This is HybridTriad, aka Scripture, and I'm going to be signing off for tonight. It's pretty late, so I'm pretty tired. So, good night, everybody.